Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just jump right into this, shall we? We are constantly bombarded with all this crypto jargon and wild speculation, but today we're stripping all of that away. We're going to look right past the buzzwords to uncover the foundational technology underneath it all. Blockchain as a database.
Now think about this for a second. We constantly hear about coins, tokens, and digital wealth. But what if blockchain isn't actually about money at all? It completely flips the script on that whole magic internet money narrative. Because as it turns out, it's something far more fundamental. And once you realize that, it completely changes how you view the future of finance.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First up, beyond the crypto hype. Second, money is a ledger. Third, we'll enter the distributed ledger. Fourth, the cap trilemma. And finally, central banks and realities.
All right, part one, beyond the crypto hype, the naked truth about blockchain.
Look at its absolute core. If you strip away all the hype, any data structure used to store information is literally just a database. That's it. A blockchain is simply a ledger used to store transaction info. The data is stored in individual blocks, and they're cryptographically linked together to create an immutable chain. By looking at it strictly as a database, we can bring this incredibly mystical concept down to a very practical reality. Really, it's just a system for recording who did what. Let's do a super quick rewind here to chart the origins. Back in August 2008, the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto released the white paper for a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. By January 2009, Nakamoto mined the Genesis block. And then in May 2010, we had the infamous Bitcoin Pizza Day, where a programmer bought 2 pizzas with Bitcoin. Yeah, pizzas that would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. Insane, right? But notice Nakamoto's original title, a cash system. That word cash leads us directly into our next concept.
Moving on to part 2. Money is a ledger, tracking owed favors.
To really wrap our heads around this, we got to look at Paul Krugman's famous babysitting economy analogy. So, picture this. In the 1970s, some young couples with congressional connections created a co-op to babysit for one another. When they babysat, they earned a certificate. And when they wanted a night out, because hey, even politicians need a break, they handed a certificate back. It functioned exactly like money, but it was really just a peer-to-peer exchange certificate. Money isn't just paper, guys. It's a tracking system for who owes whom a favor.
And here's the thing. These tracking systems can actually take on multiple forms at the exact same time. Take village economies in India, for example. We see this fascinating dual monetary system at play there. For standard transactions, money flows out to buy grain, but simultaneously, grain itself flows out to pay for labor. So both traditional money and physical grain are acting as currencies here. They're multidimensional ledgers operating at the exact same time. It just goes to show you don't need a central bank to have a ledger. You just need a widely accepted way to track value.
All right, part 3. Enter the distributed ledger, fixing the fragmentation.
What's totally fascinating here is the sheer contrast in efficiency. Think about our traditional financial system for a second. It is highly fragmented. Every bank, business, and individual keeps their own separate records. So if Party A says they paid and Party B says they didn't, you are looking at slow, cumbersome, end-of-day reconciliation just to fix the discrepancy. It's a headache. But distributed ledgers, which is the infrastructure blockchains use, offer simultaneous access, a shared state, and automated validation. Everyone is writing to and validating the exact same shared database at the exact same time.
Which brings us to part 4. The cap trilemma, the hard choices of database design.
Now, any distributed network is bound by what's called the cap theorem. Basically, a database system wants 3 main properties. First, consistency, meaning everyone always reads the exact same up-to-date data. Second, availability, meaning users can always request and actually receive their data. And third, partition tolerance, meaning the system continues to operate even if parts of the network fail and lose connection. But here is the massive catch, and I really want you to think about this trade-off. It's a trilemma, meaning you literally cannot have all 3 at the same time. You have to drop one. So which one are you going to drop? If your network connection fails, that's partition tolerance kicking in. You have to make a choice. Do you shut down operations so nobody gets conflicting information? Well, that drops availability to ensure consistency. Or do you let people keep transacting, risking that they might read outdated data? That keeps availability, sure, but it sacrifices consistency. Blockchains aren't magic, folks. They are databases that have to navigate these exact same hard engineering choices.
And finally, part 5.
Central banks and realities, the institutional whiplash.
So, initially, central banks were definitely not fans of this new database tech. Back in 2018, Hyun Shin flat out said, the decentralized technology of cryptocurrencies is a poor substitute for the solid institutional backing of money. For a really long time, traditional finance viewed crypto and blockchain as highly inefficient. They pointed to things like the cap trilemma and network congestion to basically dismiss the entire movement.
But wow, what a difference a few years makes, right? Juxtapose that early skepticism with a quote from 2023 by Augustin Carstens over at the Bank for International Settlements. He said the best way to knit together transactions is to bring them into a shared programmable platform, a unified ledger. Talk about massive institutional whiplash. The very authorities who completely wrote off the technology are now openly advocating for the exact same underlying architecture to fix our messy, siloed financial system.
So this all brings us to a really crucial, unifying realization. Money has always been a database. Literally, we are just arguing over who controls the servers. Think about it. From Luca Pacioli formalizing double-entry bookkeeping way back during the Renaissance, to an Indian village trading grain, to a central bank managing accounts, and now to a decentralized blockchain. Tracking value is, and absolutely always has been, entirely an exercise in database management.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder today. As these unified, shared ledgers inevitably start replacing our clunky, fragmented financial accounts, how is the shared database of the future going to redefine your money? Because whether it's issued by a central bank or a decentralized network, the underlying infrastructure of our financial lives is shifting right under our feet. Thanks so much for diving into the mechanics of this with us today on the